And we are live. Welcome back to Irons United, which on a very kind of, I don't know. Sorry, I've had a few drinks. Let me just get this point straight across. God. So I have had quite a few drinks, but I don't know if I'm celebrating the announcement today, which is the start of the restart of the Premier League. Of course, today we heard that the Premier League games are set to return on June the 17th. The key word there is set, because obviously they need to make sure that everything and everyone is going to be safe as it goes along. But yeah, it'll be interesting times. Of course, we've got myself, Anton, Alf, and Stel. What do you think about this, Alf?
Do you know, I'm so glad that football's coming back. You would not believe, because I ran out of things to talk about a long time ago. But I don't know. There's something that's telling me it feels just a little bit rushed. I don't know if I've got into this mindset now that, football is not going to be with us for a long, long time. Then all of a sudden, it's like 2.5 weeks' time. That's it. It's football. It's game on again. So I'm really happy, but I'm just, I'm
Still,
I just feel a bit rushed. That's all.
Still, do you remember any of the players? I mean, I forgot.
Well, actually, interestingly, the players, but I can't remember the games we've got left.
Yeah,
we got Wolves and Chelsea, and Villa is the last game of the season. Man U, and I was trying to sort of like in trying to prep for tonight. I was trying to think to myself, okay, what sort of scores, what sort of results do we think we're going to get? But I genuinely know maybe we can go through those later. But players, because I've been sort of following who's coming back to training and stuff like that. But it's the games that I can't remember. But I'm a bit like Alf. I'm kind of glad it's back, but I do think it's a bit too soon. And of course we'll talk about this, but it's down to the money, isn't it? That's what it's about.
Yeah, I mean, is it my understanding as of this coming Monday, or was it last Monday? This coming Monday, that all teams will be allowed to train 11v11 or type thing?
Well, they voted earlier in the week to do contact training.
But with 11 players for only 15 minutes. Is that right?
You could be right. I don't know. But certainly contact, because up to now it's just been non-contact, 5 players at a time. But
here's the question,
Alf.
So here's the question. If that is true, if that is accurate, right, then is 2.5 weeks now enough time for these group of players to get anywhere near kind of match fit? They have fitness. You would imagine.
There's probably arguments for both sides, to be honest, because I've seen lots of arguments of saying that if people have been given home training programs, these guys are professional athletes, that they've been on a strict kind of you have to. I know it's all about science and fitness and all that sort of stuff, but they've all got the top level trainers behind them to train them the proper way. So I don't know. It could be just money talking, and it could be me just making this up, but I can't imagine. I mean, the league putting the players back, expecting them all to pull up a cramp, or surely. I mean, we're talking June the 17th, so we're talking another 2.5, 3 weeks to go.
Yeah,
they've already been in training and they've already been doing stuff at home. So that's
apparently they're trying to do. Apparently, teams are going to try and get some friendly games in between. Don't know how that's going to work to try and get them match fit. So you're out. You're right, Alf. It's going to be a lot of players pulling up with a lot of injuries.
But still, if they try and get a friendly, I mean, how does that work? Because from the understanding is competitive football can only start on June the 17th, and June the 17th starts with 2 games. It starts with the Aston Villa, Sheffield United, Manchester City, Arsenal game, and the following weekend is when the full fixtures take place. Yep. So if they're saying that football can only resume on the 17th, I don't physically know if it's going to be allowed for them to do any form. It would have to be 11v11 from the squad.
Probably, Yeah, probably. I mean, that's what I read earlier today. But whether how possible that is logistically, I don't know. You're absolutely right. You know, trying to organise friendlies behind closed doors, behind closed doors, but organising friendlies, you know, so soon, I don't know. But I think I agree with Alf. I think it is coming back a bit too soon. We do know it has to come back, it's as we said, it's about the cash, isn't it? It's about apparently the Premier League every time. And I didn't know this because I think quite some time ago we all talked about whether the TV companies get compensated, and I think there was a gist some time back that they wouldn't ask for compensation because they'll do some sort of deal for next season, or you know, talking about maybe televising more games as compensation and stuff like that. So I thought that clubs didn't have to pay any money back, but it's been revealed now that apparently the Premier League is something like £300 million down on the on the TV deal because of all the games that have been missed, or you know, or the schedules, and that's why it's coming back quicker than it should. We all know this. It's an obvious.
So removing the kind of horrible crap that's gone on in everyone's lives recently, putting that to one side, genuinely, with football returning, are you not quite excited about it? Alf?
No.
Honestly, go for it.
What, football?
Are you excited that football is returning and West Ham will continue their journey on a relegation battle?
What? How's that? Looking forward to football coming back, knowing that we're likely to get a spanking at home against Wolves in our first game back.
Oh
God! Brilliant.
You know what? You know, for a microsecond, I was really happy that football was coming back. Because I totally forgot how crap we were.
Yeah.
You just reminded me, Anton. So then it was like, oh, really?
Do you not seriously think though? I mean, I've not looked at the Bundesliga. I've seen some of the teams have kind of hit the ground or started off where they left off. Where they left off. But I mean, players are back from fitness, players are back from injuries, and I don't know. There is a kind of, it's like a mini season in itself, isn't it? It's like, yes, I know we've got something to fight for, but there's 9 games to go? Does it take any form of pressure off the players to go out and just try and enjoy the game? And there's not going to be fans, they're not going to have fans in their back. I mean, is it going to be a big change for them not having the fans at the grounds? Will it really affect West Ham in particular still?
I think it will affect players. I think it will affect, you know, because the whole thing about the Premier League being called the greatest league in the world is because of the atmosphere that the fans bring to it. And without that, I don't know. You think about when you guys play football, and when I've played football, and you know you play in the park or you play, you know, a Sunday league or whatever level. And if you don't, even there, when you've got a few people watching and they're cheering you on, that kind of spurs you on, doesn't it? And to actually have a stadium that's completely empty, you know, and you can hear the sound of your own echo, does it inspire players? I don't know. I don't think I'd want to do it, but I don't know.
You often hear players talk about, you know, sometimes they get so immersed in the game, or most of the time they get so immersed in the game that they don't even notice the crowd, or they don't even consider the crowd. It's just like when you're playing, you know, on the park or a Sunday league team. It's just that nobody's watching. Basically, you're just playing the game, aren't you? And I just wonder if these players, whilst it might be a bit odd, they train like this. They play 11v11 or 5v5. You know, all the time anyway. So they're used to playing the game without the crowd there. I'm just wondering whether it would make much difference to them anyway.
It's funny you say that, Alf. We're used to seeing all the social media clips of them in training being world beaters. So I wonder if this will have an effect on them. You know, we could go the last 9 games unbeaten, and let's just see if the proof is in the pudding.
I'm just waiting for the club social media to come out on Instagram or Twitter and say unbeaten since March. Come on, you Irons.
Oh yeah, I've already had it in the comments.
You just know they'll do that, don't you? That you just know they'll do that.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, sorry, somebody's already said it in the comments. Yeah,
I mean, it's funny because since Premier League has announced the return today, the Italian Serie A has also announced they're returning 3 days later, on June the 20th. And then I've seen also today that some teams in the French League have actually asked for the French League to be reconsidered and see if they can potentially bring it back on. It's definitely going to cause an uproar throughout the whole world as such, but whether or not it's the right thing to do coming back is a different story. I mean, is it the right thing to do, or like we said at the start, is it that's money's talking?
It's the right thing to do. It's at the wrong time.
Yes.
You know,
I think they needed at least another couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Later, I'd say at the end of June.
Sorry, go on.
At the earliest, I would say at the earliest at the end of June to bring it back, because that would say, well, if you're going to do that, at least give us a little bit more breathing room, as in society in general, but not only that, as football as well, and also for the players to be training properly. My contention with this has always been, whenever the season was due to start, these players should be ready to go. There shouldn't be any excuses. They should be ready to go. And unfortunately, this kind of timetable has kind of lent itself for players, for managers, for coaches, whatever, to start saying, look, we only had 2 weeks to prepare, full contact training. It's just not, and that for me is kind of, we shouldn't be in that position. No fan should be hearing that. No club and no player should be put in that position either. I think, give it another couple of weeks, and then we could all say, right, everybody's fighting fit. Everybody's, as match fit as they could be, given the circumstances. And then away you go. You start the season again, don't you, really, effectively?
But it seems to be that the two most outspoken players of the Premier League, Danny Rose and Troy Deeney, have kind of got their heads around potentially returning and have announced that they will go back to training and will kind of go with what is happening. I mean, the players and the clubs, they said it was a unanimous decision, so they obviously all back it.
Well, Deeney returned to training today, apparently.
Well, he's not. I don't think he's. I think he's. I think he's been in having discussions. I don't think he's physically returned to training, and I think he's also going back in to discuss some things. I think he's actually been doing a lot of media work because he's been outspoken, but he also spoke out about how he's been attacked since he announced he wasn't going to go back into the to football. But he obviously has had enough of the answers to say why they can obviously go back in. But it'll be an interesting one. I mean, something we've never saw before, and what impact will it have on next season? I mean, they've not even come out this time and announced. I mean, they have said that I don't think they're looking at neutral grounds. I think they're going to be playing behind closed doors, home and away. So we'll play at the London Stadium. We'll play at Molineux without fans. I seen the London Mayor today. He's announced that he's really worried about it because he's concerned that fans will turn up at the stadiums. And I don't know if you've seen tonight, as I just witnessed it actually about 10 minutes ago before we came on, the Liverpool players were turning up at training, and there was probably a good 50 to 60 people outside at the training ground, and they weren't social distancing in any matter whatsoever. But I mean, how does that get managed?
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if that happens completely. Fans just turn up to games because they just want to be around the environment. I mean, personally, I think it'd be a complete waste of time, especially if nothing's open. You can't get refreshments. You can't do it. I suppose it really depends what happens with the whole, pubs and cafes and restaurants by that time. will they be reopening the end of June or mid-June or whatever? I don't know, July.
I mean, if
that's the case, well, if that's the case, then there's a good argument to say then fans can return back to stadiums as well.
Yeah.
Because I don't quite get this whole, this approach where you can only meet. What did they announce today? You can meet 6 people.
Yeah.
You can meet in groups of 6, but you don't know of those 6 who may have symptoms, who may not.
Yeah.
So what difference does it make whether it's 6, 60, 600, 60,000?
Hold on a minute. Surely if 60,000 fans use their instinct, then it's okay to go to the London Stadium.
Well, if you use your judgment, you can do anything you want.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah, so
it was my instinct to do it. My judgment is
it's like I use my own judgment to make my way to the London Stadium to check my eyesight to see if I can see the game, and I think that's absolutely fine. And if I can see the game, then but if I can see a game, then my eyesight's fine, and I might as well stay and watch the whole 90 minutes. So exactly, I don't know. I mean, we're taking the piss, but.
I think it's the same whenever like anybody says to you, or any employer says to you, oh yeah, well, we're just going to mitigate the risk. And for me, I've had this as well. And the thing is, whilst there's an element of that mitigating the risk, the thing is you can't even assess the risk.
Yeah,
that's the problem, because nobody's been tested. Nobody's been tested to see if they've had it or not. Well, a few people have, but it's such a small minority. So until every person in the country has been tested or has been tested to see whether they've had it or not, then you'll know who is safe to go into a crowd.
Yeah,
simple
absolutely.
as that. So, whether we're going to pubs, cafes, whatever, or go into a stadium, as soon as you stand close next to somebody, that's it. Who knows? I'm totally lost with this whole thing, really. That's why I kind of, as I said before, I've kind of stopped watching the news. I've stopped all that sort of stuff, really. I'd rather I'm happy that the games are going to be restarted, and I'm actually really happy that they're going to be played behind closed doors, for me anyway.
I'm happy it's coming back. I'm not happy it's coming back so soon. I think it'll be. I think some of the commentary that's been happening on over the past few months. But I know we've got Nigel watching us tonight, and he's been saying he'd rather see the season finished on the pitch, and I kind of agree with that, because the thought of doing it in any other way. It doesn't hold much ground for me. Yeah. So in that respect, I'd be happy to see what the outcome. Will it get me anxious in the way that I would if I'm going to a game, knowing how shit we can be? By watching it on TV? I've watched games on TV when I haven't been able to make them, and I do get anxious. So I guess it's a matter of getting accustomed to it. I tried to follow Nigel Khan's doctrine of watching German football, and I must admit it's tedious. I don't know if that's because it's German football, or because without the crowds, or a combination of the two.
They did have someone.
I can't really watch other teams. It's a massive game. I can't really watch other games of football. I watch highlights, of course. I watch Match of the Day and catch up on Sky Sports and all that kind of stuff. But for me to sit down for 90 minutes and watch, I don't know, Wolves against Bournemouth, I'll be like, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll watch it a little bit, but I'm in and out of the room. I'm doing something else, But if it's West Ham, no, I'm I suppose just like any other fan, you're glued. I'm glued to whatever I'm watching it on, whether it's at the stadium or if I can't get to a game, then I'm watching on the computer, on the TV, whatever.
I mean, they did have a journalist on tonight talking about the German football and what was it like, and was the intensity still there from the players? Did they, for example, they talked about Dortmund versus Bayern Munich, and there wasn't the yellow wall, and did the players pick up? Do they pick up when they hear the certain noise, etc.? I mean, I'm sitting here actually. The guy who I listened to earlier on is currently on talking about it. I mean, do you think realistically that the players? I mean, I just can't help but think that the fans, not at no fans at the Olympic Stadium, may potentially take pressure off West Ham players. Am I completely?
I think it will.
Listen.
I think it will.
I'm not saying I want this to happen. Of course, we all want to be at the game. Yeah. The point I'm trying to make is that we've had a torrid 3 years.
Yeah.
At the new stadium, and I'm just intrigued. Like, we're coming back to football. I'm not so sure this will have a negative effect on West Ham. If anything, I think it might have a positive effect because there may be no fans at the game.
That's possible. It's funny because when there was talk about neutral grounds, I kind of thought much the same thing. I thought, we don't have a great home record. So maybe playing on neutral grounds might actually suit us. And then when it was announced that London Stadium could be one of the neutral grounds, it's like, oh, shit. That doesn't help us. So maybe you're right, Anton. Maybe not having the crowd there will actually get the players focused. I don't know. Maybe.
I don't know. It's like an opportunity. Every club's going to be in the same boat. But you just, every neutral fan knows that there's a toxic feeling in and around West Ham.
Yeah.
Like, any neutral fan knows that. I know, and we know as a fan that there's a toxic-ish feeling in and around Newcastle. The difference between Newcastle and West Ham is that they are so close to takeover or not getting a takeover, and they're getting taken to this, cliffhanger of whatever's happening, where we know we're in this for the long term with Gold and Sullivan, and maybe there's an opportunity for them. They financially it might not be great for them, but they may be looking at this as an opportunity to go, wonder if we could really sort this team out and gel this team together. And what happens if they hit a nice run in the last 9 games of the season, and then it kicks into next season and there's still no fans at the game? I mean, do we think there'll be fans in the stadium next season? And if there is, or if there isn't, do you think we'll kick on again? I don't know. Like,
well, the thing is, I never thought that the government would have taken that decision they did a couple of weeks ago. I never thought that they would have started football in the middle of June, and who knows what's going to happen, because I was convinced that there's no way we're going to be able to go to a football game until January or February at the earliest. But right now, I just don't know. I just don't know if, come September or whenever, when the next season starts, if we'll be allowed to go to the games. Will we be allowed to go to pubs? Will we be allowed to go to the supporters club? By the way, I don't know if you saw, West Ham supporters club, they're not reopening until obviously match day start, but they've also frozen all renewals, membership renewals. I don't know if you heard that as well.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, they got an email the other day where basically your renewal is free, basic for current members. I think that's brilliant.
Yeah, it is. So you don't have to pay, but they'll be welcoming donations, of course.
But to be fair to the supporters club, I actually, on that very briefly, that's nice that they've done that. But I would encourage people to pay it.
I think a lot of people will.
Yeah, I think they're saying they're just going to hold fire for the time being, but they'll welcome donations as and when, just to keep things rolling on. I think so. If you're a member, you were going to pay it anyway. It's 25 quid or whatever. Yeah. Just pay it.
Listen, back onto Premier League. You were talking there about what the potential look of it's going to be. So they're looking at new staggered kickoff times will be used for the last 92 remaining fixtures. Games on a Friday will kick off at 8 p.m, while on Saturday the slots will be 12:30, 3, 5:30 and 8 p.m. Sunday matches will kick off at either 12 p.m, 2 p.m, 4:30 p.m. and 7 p.m, with Monday games starting at 8 p.m. Midweek games on Tuesdays, Wednesdays and Thursdays will kick off at either 6 or 8 p.m. That's Oh, Stell, we've lost you.
Yeah, that seems quite.
Sorry about that. I went on mute by mistake. That'll make you two happy. No, I was going to say the most interesting one out of all of those is 3 p.m. on a Saturday. Because the Sky Sports have been chomping at getting a 3 p.m. live game. And what is it, for over 50 years since we've had TV agreements? Not once has there ever been a 3 p.m. live kickoff, unless it's a cup final or something like that.
Yeah.
So and I'm sure someone will probably correct me there if I'm wrong, but a 3 p.m. Saturday, that's going to set a precedent for the future, because if it's successful, Sky are going to want to keep that. They're going to say, we'd love it to continue, and it's quite interesting because I remember my ex-wife's Italian and my ex-brother-in-law when football went, Sky went to Italy, Serie A. And they started televising live games because they usually play on a Sunday, and their attendance records dropped dramatically because everyone just sat at home and watched football. Yeah, and I think that's what the Premier League are afraid of, aren't they? They're afraid that a 3 p.m. kickoff live will diminish the number of people who actually go to games.
But then, if you're looking at potentially having no fans next season, I mean, I don't know how. I think back to when we done our first video when the Premier League was, got cancelled. And I remember us sitting there thinking, how will this ever return? I didn't actually think we'd be talking about this happening in June. I thought it was going to be a lot longer. Yeah, so that's already surprised me. I'm looking at the whole thing. I'm looking at COVID-19, and I'm looking at people talking about normality trying to kick back in. And I'm thinking, how can we go through 3 months of absolute craziness in our lives for everything just to go like that?
Yeah.
Which makes me think things like big crowds will not be happening. Therefore, the stadiums won't be full next year. And if the stadiums aren't full next year, maybe there is something to be said in what you're saying, Stella, about 3 p.m. kickoffs, and it will change the face. It is an opportunity for everyone to change the face of football forever, really.
Well, I think one thing I think is going to be interesting. I don't know when the actual TV contract is up for renewal, but I think
end of next season.
End of next season. So this is what I think in my crystal ball. Sky are going to have massive competition from a company that are already massive, but now since lockdown have just gone into hypersphere or troposphere, whatever, is Amazon. Because now Amazon are just they're earning like £1 billion a second or something ridiculous like that, and they could wipe the floor with Sky for what they will pay for the Premier League if they wanted to. I don't know. It would be very interesting because lots of people don't like Amazon the way they televised it. I thought it was brilliant, and I like the way they did it, the format. And I like the way all the games were on. You can just pick whatever game you wanted and away you go. And that could be the way to do it.
Yeah.
That could be the way to do it.
That'll be interesting. Listen, the one thing we need to talk about, I suppose, after all this has happened is the Premier League table, something we've not saw for a while, and what it currently looks like. So I've actually...
Can you put that on? I can't... my glasses, hold on.
No, I've actually made it bigger, hopefully, for you. So I've brought the top 10... up. I'll remove the banner so we can see it a bit clearer. Maybe I can't remember. I can.
I got the top half of the table, yeah.
So that's the top half, and then let's.
So we're not in the top half then.
No. Oh, I've brought that one up. Where
are we then, Ed? Well, I can't see it.
Give me 2 seconds. I'm downloading it.
We should be 5th or 6th.
Hold on a second.
I see you United up there, but it's not Western. Where's this one?
It's coming.
Wait a minute.
There it is there.
Oh, there we go. 6. Sorry, 6.
I guess if there's any consolation there with Villa starting the season off or playing on the 17th before all the other games are played on the that following weekend, is even if they win, they still don't go above us. Yes, they do. They do go above us. But sorry, we don't go down into the bottom 3. That drops.
Lads, relegation is genuinely on the cards. And after 9 games, we could be relegated to the Championship. And we could be thinking of the Premier League. And it's just clicked again. I'm like, oh shit.
I guess
And I did say this right at the start when you just
did, mate,
reminded me.
If there's any consolation, we've got a full squad back virtually. Well, no, not virtually. We've got Yarmolenko back, Fredericks is back, Wilshire is back. You know, if there's any consolation whatsoever, do you want to take that off the screen, Ant?
No, if it shows your face, then no.
That's a bit hard. That's a bit hard.
If there's any consolation whatsoever,
Actually, I know. Second, like he's gone now. I'm happy now.
Oh dear.
I'm going to carry on. If there's any consolation whatsoever, it means that we've got a full squad back. Yeah. And now I know a lot of people will say, well, we don't really rely on Yarmolenko, Wilshire, and Fredericks. Well, and Ngakia is better than him anyway. You know, but well, yeah. But I think of those three players, actually, I think the one that might become really useful for us is Yarmolenko.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, I agree.
And I think that he might be the sort of player that might save us because he gets some, you know, I know he gets a lot of bloody injuries, but let's say now he stays fit for the last 9 games. He may not start every game, but if he comes on as a sub or whatever it may be, I reckon he's got 4 or 5 goals in him that could be 4 or 5 goals that will save us.
Yeah.
You know, so of those 3 players, he's the one I'm kind of looking forward to. So we may look at that table, but let's not fear. Let's not be too worried.
Talking of players, actually, I mean, I haven't really kept up to date with sort of contracts and how that's going to work, because obviously most players' contracts that were up for renewal or whatever, or that they were letting run to the end of their contract is at the end of June, isn't it?
Yeah.
So how does that work, or are any of our players affected by this?
Well, our best player in the squad, Carlos Sanchez, has got his contract ends on the 30th of June. So it's going to be a massive loss, isn't he?
Yeah, but then on the flip side to that, our worst player in the squad, I'm not joking, Ngakia, the Ngakia saga,
right?
Albeit apparently the rumour is he's been offered another contract today and it's looking more likely he may sign. But as it stands, he's out of contract come the end of June as well.
But apparently, and the rumour has it, and I know we've only seen him play once, but apparently Ben Johnson is thought of much more as an all-round player than Ngakia. Right. And it's quite interesting because Ngakia, up until the time he turned up for Liverpool, we hadn't heard of him. No one knew anything about him. And apparently the club weren't sure about him. And he was coming into the end of his contract anyway this season. And it's quite possible they might have just let him go anyway, you know, without him ever making a first-team appearance. So, but Johnson is the better player of the two. And that's, you know, widely thought by the club itself. So, it'd be a shame.
And what about Anderson then? Because I heard rumours that the Italian clubs were interested in him and a couple of our other players as well. Is there any truth in those rumours?
I don't know.
And also, when would these transfers? I mean, they haven't got a policy on the transfer window yet, have they?
No, they haven't. But like you said, Alf, and you say a lot, the crystal ball is out, and I can predict that. I mean, I think it's pretty obvious that I don't think there'll be much movement, to be honest. I think it will be very minimal movement from clubs like West Ham. But I suppose at the end of the day, we need to see where we're going to be first and foremost in the championship. Then, of course, we're probably going to have to lose players for the wage bill. But if we do remain in the Premier League, I don't foresee a huge transformation, and I see that as more of an opportunity for West Ham. I know there's players and positions we need to strengthen in, but I can't think of anything better than having a squad of players play together for 2 seasons in a row without much disruption, because I actually think I do think there's a core of good players at West Ham. Despite what anyone says, it's just finding the right mix and being able to put them together and play. Apart from the odd strengthening of a player, I think if they dropped into the youth side of things, they'd probably have enough there in the tank to.
In answer to what happens with players at the end of their contracts, apparently the club The Premier League has said, clubs can offer a small extension to players, and that's if the players want to take it. So, I don't know who else we've got out of contract. Gakia, Sanchez, I don't know.
Chelsea offered Giroud a new contract, and I think the point I was making, I can't remember, was it yourself, Stel, I was talking to on a video, and I was saying that if you're a player that's come to the end of your contract, would you sign a short-term contract if you knew you didn't want to be at that club long-term?
And if you had another offer anyway.
Yeah, to run the risk of getting an injury.
Yeah.
So it's going to be an interesting kind of June, I suppose, or June, July, to see what players sign. Like, so for example, if Giroud knows he's not going to stay at Chelsea and he may go and get this whirlwind contract in America or even in the Premier League, what's within his interests to stay in a short-term contract?
Yeah, true. True.
That's what I see.
But how long is it going to take for? I mean, I haven't seen the timetable of games yet. So how long is it going to take for the whole season, all the games to be completed? Is it 6-7 weeks?
No, they've not said that.
July.
Well, you got to be looking at 2 months, haven't you? At least.
So
a game a week, roughly.
Mid-August, possibly by potentially. So that means that they've got to have some kind of break.
Yeah.
Before the next season, or they have a shorter break, and then they implement a mandatory winter break.
It's funny to say that though, because I wouldn't be surprised if. So you think about, what in theory they've had 2 months plus at home with their families already, which is a lot more than what they would have ever had in a. I wouldn't be surprised if they use these 9 games as a kind of pre-season and they try and get next season up and running quicker. If there's going to be no fans at the games, they're going to have flexibility in the fixture process. And they may potentially look at doing, they may reevaluate that, say, at Christmas time. So they may restart the league and go, we'll play the first half without fans, but we'll try and get as many games in or whatever under the same structure and do something. But I just think I just don't think it will go into a normal process. And if you think about it, June the 17th is what I can't remember the day the players normally go back after the summer. Is it like July the 10th or something?
Pre-season.
Yeah.
When
they start playing their pre-season games. No, it's actually a lot earlier than that. It's probably about June the 17th, June the 10th, because then you've the reason why I say that is because the league starts in August, so they always have 6 weeks of pre-season.
But don't you think that the players shouldn't be any different from anybody else in society in terms of, having breaks, having holidays, that kind of thing? Nobody's been able to have holidays and breaks, really. We've all been stuck at home. I suppose for some people, it depends if you're able to work or not. You've been stuck at home. You've been having a holiday at home, really, for some people. An enforced one, But in terms of actually going away with the family, a lot of these players, they've had it all. They've already had all that time.
And that's what makes me think that they may use this as it's competitive, but they may, if you guys are saying that this may take 6+ weeks to complete the season, then you may see us just literally have a break for 2 weeks and kickstart the season.
Exactly.
Yeah, I can see that. That's
my point exactly. Yeah. So there's no need for a big break in between the 2 seasons. You might as well just carry on.
Yeah.
In fact, I think it'd be worse for the players if they have an extended
period. If they stopped and started, I think they might do it for a short period of time to get the schedules ready for the new season, that sort of stuff. And that might take, I don't know how long it takes. That might take a couple of weeks in itself. Yeah. But I agree, Alf. I think they've had the end of season break with 9 games to go. So I would agree with you. I would think, and given that they probably don't want to disrupt next season too much anyway, the sooner they can get the new season up and started again, the better.
Listen, guys, we've got loads of comments. I think we should get into some of the comments because there's quite a lot there. Is up for it?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, just one question before we do, and on the football finances. Obviously with the the money from the TV companies. I wonder if the clubs, let's just talk about our club, whether the club will really mind not having the fan base there anyway, in terms of the money. Because especially the situation that we're in, because we don't own the stadium. And
I was going to just about say that. Yeah.
We don't actually get that amount of revenue from gate receipts, let's say, that other clubs would get. Obviously, we don't pay as much as other clubs for the upkeep, because we only pay a couple of million a year or whatever, and some bird feed. I mean, that's about it. So
I was going to say just that. For us, it doesn't really matter, because we don't earn any money out of the stadium itself apart from the gate receipts. And I know the club has finally said that they'll refund the outstanding 5 home games for this season, and there might be a discount for next season and all that sort of stuff. But you're absolutely right. It doesn't affect us. It affects other clubs much more than us. Absolutely.
Just out of interest, though, like with regards to the season tickets, because I've seen the discount. I've actually opted to refund season ticket and not get the season ticket next year, because I don't.
Really?
Well, because what happens if we don't go back?
Well, we will eventually, and like I said, probably what will happen is most clubs will turn around and say, right, you've missed another half a dozen games in the new season because we still haven't had fans back. So they might just reduce it proportionately.
But what happens if the whole season doesn't go back, like what they have predicted potentially?
I think if we're going to start socializing again in a few weeks, in small numbers and then bigger numbers and bigger numbers, I reckon probably I'm thinking along the same lines as Alf. I think we'll be back in the stadiums by the new year. So we might miss,
pending spike of COVID, it's just all that.
There will be a second spike, but they'll get through that and then they'll say that'll be it. Yeah. And I reckon all of that will happen by the new year.
Yeah.
I don't know. But yeah, I think we will be back at the stadiums, but it won't be until January time. And then what clubs will probably do is they'll say, right, your season ticket is whatever, 800 quid or whatever, but we'll give you a discount of 200 because you've missed half a dozen games in the next season.
I did see another random rumor kicking about by talking about ballot system. So when they do allow some fans, because they don't think they'll allow large fans in straight away, when they do, there might be it might be, say, 1,000 fans or whatever, and all tickets will go to a ballot at that point. But I mean, that would be quite controversial if it happened.
That's just rubbish.
Okay, so I'm looking at the club website right now. It says it's basically now a proposed date for the restart of 2019-2020 Premier League season has been provisionally agreed, and it's been confirmed that due to COVID-19, these games will take place without supporters present. The club will directly contact fans by email over the coming days with information regarding their credits and refunds on season tickets, Club London memberships, and match tickets, respectively. Have you actually received anything as yet?
Yeah, I've had the email. I've had an email from the club.
About your refund?
About a refund, yeah.
No, I haven't had anything about that at all.
Yeah, I haven't. It's probably staggered. You probably get it over the next few days.
Oh, okay.
No, hold on a minute. No, sorry. I haven't had an email from the club to state what the refund is. I've had the email from the club to state the options that are available.
Oh, yeah. Everyone's received that.
Yeah, sorry.
That was last week or whatever?
Yeah.
No,
did you not get that, Alf?
I'm just trying to look at my emails right now. Actually, last week there was something about club membership or something, wasn't there?
While you do that, I'll jump into the comments.
Yeah, please do. Yeah, here we go.
Still, you want to read them out?
I keep on getting the bloody emails from the club about 40% off, 20% off club shirts. I get those bloody emails, I tell you.
It finally tempted me. I managed to buy a few things, much to my disgust. But there you go. Good evening, all from South Australia. Neil, how are you doing, mate? 5 o'clock in the morning there. He's a trooper, isn't he?
Yeah.
Good lad.
I am convinced that Abs is a West Ham fan. Good evening, Abs. Hope you're well. Sanitizer. All gonna. Oh, they're talking to each other. Evening all. Time to start the season. Are you happy with it, Jay? It sounds like you are, mate. Good evening, PB. Are you just going through every single one of them? No, I didn't come in the same clothes, actually, Nigel. This is the a couple of seasons ago, this shirt, and the other one I wore the other day was my brand new one of this season.
No, I can confirm after meeting Stell several times, he does not wash.
Good evening, Mick. Hope you're well.
Right, let's see what we can get into. There's loads here. I'm just trying to mix saying, hi Neil, congratulations on being Irons United Fan of the Year.
Actually, he deserves a prize, mate. Just send something out. Good evening, Andrew. Really disappointed football is coming back. It isn't the same without fans. Won't be the same meeting the lads for a beer pre-match. Wealth over health. It's far too soon. Yeah, interesting. That's exactly what we've been kind of discussing.
I agree with that, yeah. Well, I haven't got the email, lads. I haven't got it.
I look in your junk.
Me.
Look in your junk mail.
I'm not looking at anybody's junk, I tell you. Aren't you right?
Mick says, seems strange that the football starts, yet some players have got the virus. Well, that's it. I raised that point on Sunday and asked, what would happen if a squad. I know the number of players with the virus is quite small in proportion to the number of players that have been tested. But what would happen if a club ends up having, say, half a dozen of its main players with the virus? Well, will they still be forced to play?
It's funny you say that, because this is the thing I don't understand. Did you read the test case of the Bournemouth keeper? The Bournemouth keeper was tested something like 3 days apart. The first time he was tested, he was negative.
Negative.
The second time he was tested, he was positive. And he was racking his brains to understand why he got a positive test, because he never done anything except for one thing, which was go to the supermarket. So he said it's the only place he reckons he could have picked it up. The problem is, if he has been in training, does that not, in small numbers? I mean, I've seen some of the training videos that West Ham have put on, and there are people that are close.
Yeah, but it's still they're still separate. So it's in groups of 5, but they're still quite wide apart. So
that doesn't mean that the other players isolate then.
Well, it's going to be interesting when contact training comes in place.
Yeah,
which will be from, I think, next week, and then when they start doing the testing to see if the number of players with the virus goes up. Yeah, I'm just intrigued. I'm intrigued what will happen, because the one thing that you can see happening, if we get a second spike in this virus, we could possibly have football back, play 2 or 3 games, and then all of a sudden a spike, and then it'll have to be stopped again. Yeah, that's why I think, I don't disagree with it coming back. I'm with Alf. I think it's just too soon.
Yeah.
Football returning, that's a stretch. Yeah. Good evening, Kat. Absolutely right.
Hey, lads, can you remember what our last game was, by the way?
Arsenal.
Yeah, it was. We lost 1-0.
Remember, we'd done I was away somewhere. Alf, you were on. I think, Still, you were at the game.
Yeah.
And that's when it was all it was like, it probably shouldn't have gone ahead. But yeah, it was Arsenal game.
Yeah. That's when Arteta caught it as well, wasn't it? Yeah. He came. Yeah, so a couple of days ago. So yeah, there we go. Right, Oh well.
How many times have you seen players go to the fans to get them up to help the team?
Well, Noble does, and Declan does, doesn't he? There you go.
Nigel,
I sometimes think, I don't think it's for their benefit. I think it's for our benefit that they do that.
Yeah,
especially Nobes, and Rice as well. I think he's taken a leaf out of Nobes' book there. Yeah. He's trying to G up the fans just to, it's all about engagement at the end of the day. And I'm sure it helps them to a certain degree, but I think it's more about, come on, we're in it together. Let's get the fans up. And it's about that communicating to the fans. Look, we know you're here, and
we know you're here. We care, and all that.
Yeah, and all that kind of stuff. But I don't know. I'm not sure how much effect it has on them, really. But
Mixed point here is, what about the Championship and other leagues? And are they starting? It looks like the EFL is getting closer. The Championship is getting closer to starting, but it looks like, what is it? League One and League Two. League Two is definitely over.
Well, it's an interesting thing. It shows. I listened to Nigel's podcast. You know, they were talking about the lower leagues, and it's not financially beneficial for them to carry on playing. You know, the only leagues that are it's financially beneficial for are the Championship and the Premier League, because you know, I don't know what the figure was. It could cost you several thousands of pounds to put a game on, even without fans, you know, with whatever you need. And some of the lower league teams can't afford that without having fans coming through the turnstiles. So, but the Championship, I think, give or take, is okay. Obviously, Premier League is an abundance of money there, so that's not too bad either. Good evening, Slaps. You got to see Slaps' hairstyle. Brilliant. Mate, you should put a photo up next time. He hasn't cut it for a few weeks. Our players won't be fit. They have poor pre-seasons and start seasons poorly, and is a recipe for disaster for us. Football should not be back. Purely greed. Yeah, by the Premier League and Sky. Why not greed from the players? Yeah. Well, the players are greedy because they could have all been furloughed for not working for all these weeks on £2,500 a week rather than £250 a week or whatever they earn.
Yeah, absolutely.
But anyway,
As you
Mick,
know, the players are back training. Fredericks, Wilshire, Silva, Johnson, Yarmolenko. So, positive signs.
It's interesting that Johnson is training with the first team squad, by the way.
Yeah. Fredericks, I think, would be a good one for us to have back. Yarmolenko, definitely. I think it's just going to be the same old thing with us, though, isn't it? It's about balance, having the right balance, the right players, and how they, you know, link up with each other. I'm just wondering whether our Mr. Young Bowen, who I thought was brilliant for the couple of games that we had him before this all kicked off, I'm just wondering whether he can, you know, crack or kick on and just save us for the rest of the season.
I think he's the sort of player that probably will pick up where he left off.
Yeah, I do.
I'm not sure about other players, but I think he will.
Yeah, he's got that energy. He's got that energy that we've kind of been lacking, haven't we? You know, that kind of almost, dare I say, that kind of naivety about him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You know, whereas other players, lots more experience, might be a bit jaded. He just seems to have that willful enthusiasm. So, right, I'm put the ball up there. I'm going to run after it. Yeah.
There's one player that I don't think we've seen back yet, which kind of concerns me more because of the position rather than the player, and that's Creswell. I don't know if he's returned to training yet or not, which obviously means that a certain other player will end up playing there, a name I dare not mention.
King Arthur.
King Arthur.
You
see how easily the grief comes back.
You had to say it. Look, he's got a blood pressure problem. Just leave him alone. Keep taking your pills, still.
No, that's why I wonder if that's why Johnson's back, because Ngaki is back training as well, and even if he does go, they'll make him play the last few games if we put Johnson out on the left. Yeah.
The thing is, he did play one game, didn't he?
That's right.
On the left. Or was it 2 games? I can't remember. Yeah, but is he favoured on the right though?
He is a right-footed player.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Go back to that last one, and 36 Bundesliga games. Yeah, that's why we should play on neutral grounds, eh?
It's a good point here Peter makes. Even what about the supporters of underlying health issues and don't want to mix with big crowds?
Well, this is exactly my point, Peter. This is exactly my point. Okay, I think somebody said in the comments before, what's the difference between 6 or 6,000? Well, actually, there is no difference between 6 or 6,000 because until everybody's tested, you just don't know. And anybody with any kind of health issue, you shouldn't be going anywhere near this anyway. Just stay well away because you just don't know. This is going to be an interesting thing, actually. Let's say in a few months' time, when they say to fans, right, okay, everybody can go watch football again. I wonder how many fans are going to be gung ho and say, "Yeah, we're definitely going," or how many fans are going to be like, "Do you know what? I'm just going to stay away for a little bit longer."
I think there is going to be fans anyway. I mean, I think I'm not saying it's going to be a lot, but I think it will be noticeable.
Yeah, I think it will be noticeable, especially at our stadium. I think it will be.
Yeah,
definitely. You know. But there we
go. Can't wait to throw a few pints down my neck, a few lines.
Oh my god! Okay, anyway.
Yes, Chinoy. Can you imagine Wilshire being fit for the first game and scores a worldie? I wouldn't put money on it, but would be. Well, I think, it's interesting because Wilshire is, I was still laughing at the last comment, same bloke. Wilshire, he's the sort of player that will come on in a game and can thread a ball through for a player to score a winner. That's what he's capable of doing. Yeah, but it'd be nice, just to see Wilshire walk, let alone play.
Yeah, no, he'll start the first game. He'll thread that through ball. Brilliant. He'll score a worldie. I absolutely agree. He'll score a worldie in the 53rd minute, and then 54th minute he'll go off injured, and we'll never see him again.
And we won't see him again.
Ever.
There you go. What will happen if the spike returns in the middle of the last 9 games when the cancer? There you go. So, what will happen? They'll have to postpone the season again, and it's just weird. Yeah. Just weird. Oh, is that it? Are we done?
Yeah, well, I had to skip some because there was quite a lot of people just chatting to each other and covering points we've already covered. So, I mean, that's just coming to an hour, guys. So I think we could, we've covered.
He wants to go back to drinking, doesn't he? Yeah. He's run out of beer.
I'm looking at the weather. I'm thinking, why am I inside the house and not outside the house? But please get your comments in and let us know what your thoughts are on the Premier League coming back. Let's. I'm sorry, I'm just reading the.
Oh, I just read this last one. Okay. No, not that one. The next
Glad
one.
I made you giggle. No, you weren't. No, you.
Here comes Nigel fishing.
Yeah, no. What's the next one?
I think all the fans that didn't want to restart this should have. So he is, isn't he? He's fishing. Yeah.
But get your comments in. Let us know your thoughts on obviously the league starting again and how do you feel West Ham will fare. I mean, here's a little predict. Let's do a little prediction before we go. Will West Ham stay up?
Yes.
And hold on, don't say anything else just yet. Stell, what's your answer to that? And then I'll come back to you, Alf.
Yeah, no, I think we will stay up actually.
And Alf, do you think we'll stay up based upon the fact that we've got 3 worse teams than us, or we'll earn it?
I think we'll earn it.
Still,
yes.
Yeah, I agree. It's like you said earlier, Anton. We've actually got a decent squad. If you think about it, we actually do have a decent squad. And like I said earlier, with the return of someone like Yarmolenko, he could be a match winner for us. So I think we'll struggle, but we will get there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's going to be a last, 4 or 5 matches that we'll kind of get it together.
I was just, what just ran through my mind the Tevez season when he kept us up and he did it because he shouldn't have been playing. We'll probably find out that one of our players has done something and he shouldn't be there. He's been carrying the virus for about 6 months without telling anyone. He infects everybody else, and that's the only reason why we stay up.
Judgment, he's fine.
Well, knowing our luck, half of our players have been partying with Janoi there, and they'll test positive after the season's ended. But there we go.
Keep Janoi away from our players.
Yeah, we wondered why they had so much energy. Well, there you go. Oh, bloody hell! God. Must be a new training regime down the training ground. There we go.
If you have
a few lines, lads, just before you go.
If you haven't subscribed to the channel, make sure you go and subscribe. Hit the thumbs up. Look at all the other videos. There's been quite a lot of decent videos out recently. Interesting ones. So make sure you get involved and have a look at them as well. And of course, we'll be back over the next couple of days. I think we've got some more stuff coming out. I think we're just going to do a little reshuffle of days of when things are going to go out. and we'll come back to you and just keep in touch. We'll probably need a few more videos, and obviously there's going to be a lot more to talk about over the coming weeks. So bear with us and make sure you tune in. Anyway,
are we gonna do watch-alongs?
We can have a chat about that after if you want. So yeah, we'll definitely do something to get you interested and engaged, and we'll try and do something a bit fun with it. So
right. But are we going to be happy with the first game, the first result?
What, against Wolves? Wolves.
Yeah, Wolves, right.
Yeah, no, we'll lose. We'll lose against Wolves.
God, the preview. We've got previews to do and reviews. It's going to be...
Oh, my God. Previews?
I've got my grumbles to do.
Grumbles, oi-ois, previews, reviews.
Oh, blimey.
Oh, and soon we'll be doing transfer talks as well.
Oh,
proper ones.
Look, forget about the players being match fit. We're not match fit.
That's true.
That's the problem. We need to wrap this up, lads. Come on. Let's get into training.
Let's see
the fans expect. Come on.
He's been stale. Don't follow him on Twitter because he's not on Twitter.
Exactly.
I'll follow him on Twitter. I think he is on Twitter.
Yeah, but I don't talk football. Only on match days I talk football.
And he's been Anton. Oh, he's been Anton. Don't follow him anywhere because he just talks shit. So there you go.
Come on, you Irons.